Okay, guys, so welcome back to the channel. Of course, today we are talking about Demna Vesalia's or Demna, his last Balenciaga show. Of course, we know that it's been announced already. He's the creative director of Gucci. This is not only his last show, it's also his last couture show. It's many lasts with this show. So I really wanted to examine it, look at the ideas, look at the inspirations, and kind of just give my overall thoughts. However, before we even talk about this collection, something I really wanted to talk about that really made me have an appreciation for Demna's work. Not like I didn't already. I'm a big fan of his work. You guys would know that I'm more of a fan of his earlier collections. I think the latter collections definitely weren't for me. But I went to his exhibition in Paris, which was kind of a retrospective of his time at Balenciaga. So you're invited into the space, and it has all the different things that he had designed. Not every single thing, but it's like curated. I think it was like 70 something looks in total, and then accessories included and many other things. And then he was explaining, there was audio of him explaining every single piece and look, which was really interesting. And it made me really have a strong appreciation for the techniques used, kind of where his head was at when he was designing a lot of those things. And all those kind of things, especially from the earlier collections. And it was really great to see a lot of that stuff up close. So it was really good. I think that was a great send-off in a way for him to really remind people of all the different things that he's done at the brand. I thought that was really, really cool. So yeah, when it comes to his couture collections, I've always really been a fan of the couture collections, a lot more than like the recent ready-to-wear stuff that I said I haven't really been the biggest fan of, to be honest. So that's the case right here. Now, what I want to show you, BOF has a really good video that's kind of a summary on his ideas from the show. So we're going to watch that first, because I think that's a good summary before we even get about talking about the ideas within the collection. So let's watch it. Let me just refresh the page.
To me and to Balenciaga and all the things that we did here since 10 years. I'm so fucking hard on myself all the time, but it's definitely my love letter to Paris and to Balenciaga. We try to do corsets in which you can actually kind of breathe and sit. It's like a shapewear, but more than that. The tailoring was a very interesting part. I saw this documentary last year about Napolitan tailoring, and I was really blown away. I did deconstructed, no shoulder pads, so they call it giacca camicia, which is like a shirt. So basically you wear a jacket and you think it's a shirt. That's how the modern tailoring should be. And I wanted to kind of underline this idea that it's not the garment that defines the silhouette, but it's the body that wears the garment. And then I wanted some kind of glamour and the idea of this old Hollywood in it. And I felt like I wanted to do this tribute to Paris, my Paris, not Paris like, you know, how it's seen maybe abroad, but real Paris. And also kind of putting the couture into that. It's been a bit my challenge since I came here. I wanted to make couture relevant and, you know, put it in the context in which, not in the palace, not in this amazing salon, but there into the real life. And I think that contradiction between the extravagance and the craft that is in this collection, I kind of needed to find justification for myself even being here. I was like, he didn't want this. And I always had this very weird, like, it felt like a battle for me. Like, you know, and people didn't make it easy for me because I was always permanently like, on what would he say and would he like, he would hate it, and then at one point something happened that was very important for me at Balenciaga. Probably one of the most important things. It changed. I met Danielle Slavin, who used to be Cristobal Balenciaga's fitting model. She not only embraced me and she told me the most beautiful things about my work and my creativity and the links that she saw in me with Cristobal Balenciaga, but she also justified me being there. I mean, I think what I've learned here is that when you come to a brand that has heritage and codes, you're either very lucky and you have a multitude, an abundance of codes that you can build on and evolve and modernize and kind of like, you know, make it relevant. I love Balenciaga and it's the most beautiful couture house for me. But the codes at Balenciaga are not in proportion to the type of business it is. So since last 10 years, I needed to use the cocoon and the hourglass and all of that, but that was definitely not enough for me to build what I built there. So I needed to integrate a lot of Demna codes into this house for it to become the business that it has become. Because it's a combination of that beautiful but somewhat claustrophobic heritage and my personal style. Whereas my next chapter, I have quite a luxury of having a lot of different codes that I have actually never used or had before to build on. And that's something that excites me a lot. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm actually going there. If I have more ingredients to make the dish, it makes it very exciting.
Yeah, I'm just going to mute that before this stream gets shut down for copyright. I don't know why they always add music, especially music that's not a beat, like music of someone singing on top of someone speaking. Horrible content strategy, whoever does their content. But yeah, that kind of summarizes the collection. So there are many different aspects of the collection. I just wanted him to summarize it because it'll make it easier to follow. So talking about the tailoring first of all, so in the show notes he talked about this idea of Neapolitan tailoring. It's this, he developed the tailoring with 4 family-run ateliers from Naples in Italy, which follows the unstructured Neapolitan style pioneered by Vincenzo Attellini. Of course, like he said, he watched a documentary where he learnt all about it. Now, what characterizes this tailoring aesthetic is it's quite soft, it's lightweight in construction, it has very natural shoulders, and it's minimal in padding. So because of that, that kind of tailoring really follows the shape of the body, which is why he was talking about this idea of like he was thinking about the idea of tailoring as a shirt or wearing a suit but it fits like a shirt, and that's what he thinks modern tailoring should be or look like. Do I think that's, you know, what modern tailoring should be or look like? Not necessarily. However, I think it's an interesting idea. And what he did was he created 9 suits across the collection in this sort of one size fits all thing, but it was modeled and measured around a bodybuilder's physique. So what he was going for here was this idea that depending on what your body type is, the garment looks different because obviously it's actually measured around a bodybuilder. So on the bodybuilder, it follows the lines of his body and it gives quite a unique shape. But then on everyone else, it just looks really oversized. But what I found really fascinating about using this technique, even though the tailoring was oversized on the models that were a lot smaller, it didn't look out of whack. It didn't look completely crazy, which is what you would think. Like it's literally modeled over someone that is twice as big as them. So that was quite interesting because of the soft nature of the tailoring. It actually flatters. It's quite flattering on the body. That was quite interesting to see how he did that. And that's why he was talking about it's not the garment that defines the body. This idea that it's the body that, you know, defines the garment. However, yes, it does contradict haute couture customs, but isn't that kind of what Demna is about, right? It's about breaking rules. It's about what really is couture. You know, we have this conversation every time when it comes to Demna Balenciaga couture collections, where he's kind of questioning the notions of what couture is supposed to represent in the first place. Another big theme in this collection, which he also spoke about, is this idea of Hollywood. He is someone that himself was very inspired by what he considers to be the golden age of Hollywood. And that's a real personal obsession for him. So that there was a black sequin gown that was inspired by Marilyn Monroe. There was a pink dress that he described as being the dress in the world's lightest technical organza. And it's a really interesting draped dress that was cut with one seam. So that was another big thing. There were a lot of Cristobal references. The Danielle suit that they've mentioned is a recreation of a houndstooth ensemble that she wore in 1967. There was a 1957 floral motif that he then used as a pattern for a skirt and a suit, which is interesting because this is an idea that Demna has always used, even back in the Vêtements days. This kind of idea of, you know, this floral motif or pattern reminded me of tablecloth from my childhood that my mum used to have, that my grandma used to have. So he's kind of bringing that idea once again in this collection. And overall, I can go into all the different techniques that were used to make every single piece because I have them written down in my notes. However, it did kind of look like a best hit for Demna. A lot of the ideas and aesthetically looked a lot like what we're used to seeing from Demna, and it kind of was kind of just this is what I've done, this is a summary of what I've done, and this is my farewell tour, which I kind of think, coming off the exhibition that I went to, that, like I said, I really enjoyed, it very much is in line with a lot of those things. It's about pretending to break rules while not actually breaking any rules. Damn. I don't see where there's evolution from the first couture collection he did to this final collection. Yeah, there isn't much evolution, to be honest with you. There isn't a lot of evolution. Even the lookbook was very similar to stuff that he's been doing since the early days of Balenciaga and Vetements. This idea that when you look at the lookbook, and we'll look at that after, all the looks were photographed throughout Paris, which was a tribute to different parts of Paris that have inspired him over the years at Balenciaga, and also a tribute to the fact that Paris was where he really started his fashion career. Nothing unique there from a Demna perspective, because once again, he's done that since the Vetements days. Nothing new there. So that was really interesting. He's really trying to over-exaggerate that concept. It's not that serious. It sounds kind of lazy. What concept are you talking about? Is it the tablecloth thing? Because he's been doing that since the beginning, to be honest. I personally think Demna's haute couture peaked at the 51st collection. Then it died down from that point. Interesting. I mean, this silhouette is something I talk about all the damn time. It's referencing, and you can see the peak lapels there, but it's referencing Christopher Balenciaga shapes, but also the fact that he is an Orthodox Christian growing up in Georgia, and the priest gowns that they would wear. So that's a silhouette that he's been using forever also. So nothing new there, once again, like I was saying. I don't think he has any more sauce, in my opinion. Watch him talk about it, and it didn't seem like he really cared. I'm not sure I agree with that. Like I said earlier, I'm not the biggest fan of his later collections. However, he's definitely passionate about his work. I definitely will say he seemed to me, at least, like he was passionate about what he was talking about. To be given couture where you can do anything and do the same thing over and over until you step down is kind of wild. Yeah, which is why I'm not a big fan of like the later collections. Because I think he got to the point where he was over conceptualizing a lot of what he was doing. Like Demna would make a Lamborghini collab and then try to over conceptualize it, and in my head I'm just like, that's just a Lamborghini collab. Or he would make like GR looking Under Armour collab and trying to intellectualize it, and I'm like, no, it's just an Under Armour collab. I could literally walk in Under Armour right now and get that exact shape of Under Armour jacket without the Balenciaga embroidered onto the jacket. Someone said Demna is already designing Gucci, so it's absolutely understandable to keep new ideas and intuitions for that, especially when it's the same corporation. Also, I think something important to note about Demna at Gucci is, well, he mentioned in an interview that he won't be going the same aesthetic direction in lieu of what he did at Balenciaga. Do I believe him? Not really, because Demna says a lot of things and then turns around and does the opposite. But if we're going by what he said he's going in a totally different direction. So regardless of how much time he spent on this collection, technically the Gucci collection should be completely different anyway, because, well, he said the ideas are going to be completely different. This for sure makes me interested about his Gucci, because I was holding hope for him having much more within him, but it seems unlike that, hopefully on purpose. Yeah, I guess so. It was also interesting how he said in this collection they created the first Balenciaga couture sneaker, which is a standard runner, but handcrafted using traditional shoemaking techniques. And when he says traditional shoemaking techniques, I really wonder what he means by that. I wish he would have expanded on that in the show notes. You believe a one-trick pony is going to come up with a new trick? Damn, tough audience today. Really tough audience today. Oh my god. The bomber jacket. There's been bomber jackets in a lot of the couture collections, to be honest. But he calls that bomber jacket like the lightest possible silk bomber jacket. So it's supposed to be this like ultra thin, ultra silk bomber jacket. The puffer coats, something else he's been doing in couture, once again, asking the questions of what exactly is couture and what kind of garments are allowed to be in a couture collection. Those puffer jackets always have no side seams. So that's like supposed to be the interesting thing about it. I don't find it that interesting, but that's supposed to be the interesting thing. The bags, once again, it's like him repurposing the context of certain things. So you have briefcases being turned into actual bags. You also have across this collection, you'll see garment bags reimagined in leather fabrics or satin fabrics, which makes a lot of sense, to be honest, considering how much tailoring is in this collection and the fact that there was a clear focus on the Neapolitan tailoring as a theme and as an idea. So having the, you know, leather garment bags as actual bags makes sense. This guy you're seeing on the screen right now is the bodybuilder. That guy you just saw. He was the person who the suits were modeled after. So all the other suits that look really oversized, like this suit, is modeled after the bodybuilder. So because it's the soft tailoring, it's quite flattering on the body, to be honest, considering. If it was more structured, it would look horrible as an oversized suit. It still looks kind of goofy, and I think a lot of Balenciaga stuff looks goofy, especially the crazy oversized stuff. But it would look so much more goofy if it was more like British tailoring, structured, shoulder pads, you know, a lot of structure in the chest. It would look insane. I hope Balenciaga becomes about pattern cutting and innovation again, and hoodies are over. So to give them the credit, I think that his Balenciaga was about pattern cutting and innovation, just in a different way. Like the techniques he was using were quite advanced for a lot of stuff that he was making. They were quite advanced. The way he was making the footwear, the way he would make, like, I remember there's one dress that he made a few seasons ago that was like a laminated print on a dress, and it was this really thin fabric. Like, he was using some really interesting techniques. I think he was quite innovative at Balenciaga. I just think that the gimmicks kind of took away from it when you're making, you know, lace tips bags as actual bags and all that sort of stuff. That's when we start to lose it a bit. But I definitely think that he was quite innovative at Balenciaga. I'm actually a huge fan of Demna. He had a huge influence on how we dressed for that large decade. I totally agree. Pierpaolo Piccioli actually brought in massive figures with Maria Grazia at Valentino, increased their couture clients. Culture just went street and they didn't keep up. He'll flourish in these conservative times. We shall see. We shall see. I've always found Demna's Balenciaga super technically impressive. People just hate his aesthetic interest. Yeah, I think technically it is very impressive. I think just there's just stuff I don't like, and it was quite telling. So talking about the exhibition once again, because when I was going there, I thought I was going to really hate it because I thought I was going to see a lot of those football jerseys that I didn't really like, and I thought were cash grabs and they weren't sitting within the theme of a lot of Demna's collections. They didn't really make a lot of sense. But none of that stuff was in the exhibition, and I was happy about it. I was like, at least from him, there's a level of self-awareness about kind of what he wants to showcase and what he feels like is worth showcasing, and all that stuff that I hate, he didn't showcase. So I was quite happy about that, and I ended up really liking the exhibition and really appreciating the innovation behind each piece. And yeah, kind of like this, Demna definitely had two sides. There was like the really interesting, innovative side, and then the really annoying, cash grabby, merchy, makes no sense sides, like those Lambo collabs and Error One merch. Like all that stuff, I really hated it, to be honest. Not many designers have been able to change the zeitgeist like he did. Yeah, I totally agree. This section of the runway show, like I said, this is the ode to Hollywood, the golden age of Hollywood, which, like I said, was a personal obsession for him. So you just saw Naomi Campbell in a sequined gown that was inspired by Marilyn Monroe, and then a different version of it in yellow. I hate because I care. I appreciate Demna's ability to move culture and his technical prowess. I just hate his aesthetic. I like beauty. I think Demna gave you both, though, especially in the earlier collections, which is why I prefer the earlier collections. In the earlier collections, well, he still kind of did this even in the later collections, but they kind of were more trashy in aesthetic. But the last 5 to 6 looks were always like these really nice, Cristobal Balenciaga level constructed gowns. Because remember, this was before he brought back couture for Balenciaga. So his couture for Balenciaga was really like the last 4 or 5 looks, where he was just showing everyone what he could do. In the middle, you would also get some really interesting dresses and skirts and layering and styling. And I think Lotte Volkova and Demna are really good together. They gelled really well together, styling those earlier collections, to be honest. But the gimmicks is where he just completely lost me. I swear you're praising some of the more Instagrammy clothing. Like what? Depends what it is. But can you remind me of what specifically I was praising? And then I could give you a reason why, if I remember. I question if irony as a quality, even applicable to Demna, as I always saw him as truly trying to see beauty in contemporary culture. There's humor, but I find his interest very sincere. Thank you so much for the super chat, by the way. Do you think in like 15 years, Demna's era will be remembered fondly? Yeah, I do. I do think his era will be remembered fondly because I think that there's a lot of stuff that he did that was very innovative. Like I said, I think what's going to happen, kind of like the exhibition, right, where the exhibition was perfectly curated and all the filler and trashy collabs were removed and none of it was really there. So when they write books about Demna's work, they're going to filter out all that stuff and just talk about the really innovative stuff he did, how he changed the way people dressed, him, like defining internet culture and fashion and all that sort of stuff. Kind of very unique ways that he used the runway as a marketing tool, the way he used social media, the social media strat. I feel like that's what we'll talk about when we remember Demna. Demna is kind of, who was I talking to in the Discord? I think it was Leo, where we were like, the problem with Demna is Demna produces so much stuff, and because he produces so much stuff, he has so much good stuff, but also so much really bad stuff. And let's say he has like a 50% hit rate. A 50% hit rate is quite high in the grand scheme of things, but because he produced so many collections with so many looks, there's so many things that are just out there in the world that aren't fantastic. So that's kind of how I see Demna's work when I think about like all that stuff. Let me do it like that. Couture done in a way it was done 40 years ago. It's just nostalgia. You need to deal with contemporary world no matter if you like it or not. Yeah, I mean, there's contemporary world and then there's just cash grabs. There's nothing to me really that interesting with having a tote bag that has Erewhon plastered on it, other than it just being a really, to me, basic commentary on celebrity culture. I think a commentary on celebrity culture that's done well could be layered a lot better than the way he did it. So there's talking about contemporary culture well, and then there's talking about contemporary culture in a very basic way. I think a lot of the contemporary culture commentaries were kind of basic. It's like, yeah, I eat Lay's chips sometimes, so I'm going to make a bag because why not? A lot of celebrities, they're obsessed with Erewhon, so let's do a collab with Erewhon and have Erewhon tote bags on the runway. It's just, that's to me a really it's just memifying fashion. There's not really a really interesting commentary to be had there. But I have mentioned in the past, and you guys that follow the streams would know, I am a fan of the questions that he was asking as far as couture goes, like in terms of what does couture even mean? Why can't jeans be couture? Because at the end of the day, because the argument that Demna ultimately made, which I agree with him on, is that 40, 50 years ago, couture clients demanded a certain type of clothing because they had places to wear that kind of clothing. Like the clothing that couturiers were making for them was actually practical for them to wear because they had a lot of balls and stuff to go to. Whereas nowadays, people don't really do stuff like that. So you would have to make couture for the things that people wear in the modern day, which is why he would make like couture versions of jeans, couture versions of puffer jackets, couture versions of hoodies. I do agree with him fundamentally about that point. But I just think that there are so many other contemporary commentaries to have. So when he started doing the same thing, like having the exact same bomber jacket with the orange lining in every single couture show, was like, okay, we have to have more ideas than this. The questions he asked were cool. It was the answers he produced which were questionable. Yeah, I totally agree with you to an extent, for sure. Yeah, in the video now, they're just talking about the tailoring technique, as you guys can see on the screen. I always thought Demna's ironic take on his design is the ultimate copium that he and his fans can use whenever people criticize his designs being bad or boring. Yeah, because it kind of sidesteps any sort of critique, right? It's like any sort of critique, and it's like, yeah, but it's supposed to be like that. Like, it's just a commentary on society today, and like, that is true. I don't think always. I think sometimes he had very valid commentaries on contemporary culture, but sometimes people are reaching. And I do think that people over conceptualize his work a lot to the point where Demna would start saying in interviews, like, people are like thinking that this stuff is deeper than it is. I just like the shirt, so I made it. Like a lot of things, even when I went to the exhibition and you read, let me see if I can get some of that stuff on the screen so you guys can actually read what I'm talking about. Where he would say things like, I was really interested with X idea, so I just made it because that's kind of what I was interested in. That's literally how he describes it. And then people are like, yes, it's a commentary on society today and where society is going and, you know, how things have gone and it's politics and war. And meanwhile, when you read him or you just listen to him talk about it, he's like, I just liked how it looked aesthetically and wanted to incorporate it in my work. The funny thing is people do a lot of that still. It's just not shown to the public as much. If you follow the right people on social media, gowns are not gone. Yeah, gowns are not completely gone. I think Demna was just trying to bring balance into it in the sense that, you know, why aren't people making jeans in a couture show? Because that's what people actually wear day to day these days. Even like rich people, right? Because rich people, there's a huge difference between the way people used to dress based on class, like 50, 60, 70 years ago. And it's a lot closer now where rich people wear jeans, normal people wear jeans, people wear jeans to work, it's workwear. Everything is kind of blurred, whereas before there were clear differences in the way that you would dress based on your class in society. I mean, I think it's cool he made suits for bodybuilders. It's another side of body positivity that is forgotten. I don't know if he went for that though. Yeah, I don't know if he was doing it from a body positivity standpoint. It seemed to me like he was tackling it more from a just kind of showing how that style of tailoring can make oversized clothing look good because it's soft and it's not too structured, so it's quite flattering on the body. I think that was kind of more what he was going for, more so than you know, body positivity thing. Like rich Chinese teens and Azerbaijanis don't care and buy Balenciaga. Same with younger rappers. Demna has a Warholian approach to design. It's not art, it's comment. Yeah, I can see that for sure. I think we expected so much from Demna. His 50% hit rate is still 3 times more ideas than most designers. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think the point I was just making was that when you have a 50% hit rate, it means there's going to be so much stuff out there in the world that doesn't hit. And if we're just thinking about all that sort of stuff that doesn't hit, we're going to think, he has a lot of stuff that's like really goofy. But it doesn't matter because then he has a 50% hit rate. So there's also a lot of stuff that's really good, if you know what I mean. Sorry guys, I'm just like finding the images from when I was in Paris so I can put it on the screen so we can go through the exhibition, because this show, we've kind of really talked about the concept. There's not really much there other than what I've mentioned as far as ideas go. So I really want to show you guys the exhibition, show you guys the descriptions, so you guys can see exactly where his head was at. The waist looked good, but the shoulders, God help me. If you went so oversized for men, why didn't he do the same with women? Probably because women's bodies don't fill out tailoring the way a man's body does, because men normally are broader. The men's shoulders are broader, so it's easy to fill in. You can fill into oversized clothing a lot easier than women can. Women's bodies are, on average, more narrow. So that would be my guess, to be honest. I think where Demna went wrong is trying to make streetwear clothing instead of understanding streetwear as a personal vibe. Yeah, although what I will say, I think that Demna was able to successfully kind of embed himself in streetwear culture, because technically a lot of what he was designing became like big in streetwear, and a lot of people are dressing that way. A lot of rappers adopted that style, and then it became kind of big. So in a way, even though maybe he didn't tackle streetwear from the most authentic standpoint, it kind of became streetwear, like part of the actual ethos of what streetwear was, especially for our time, which is crazy. But yeah. I'm still selecting these images so I can show you guys. One moment. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat in the meantime. I feel like Demna used all four haute coutures, simply trying to integrate everyday clothes to couture. It's good, but not worth repeating 4 times in a row. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm certainly with you on that. Demna will always have fans like Phoebe, Eddie, and Michaela. So it's interesting you say that. We were having a conversation in the Discord about Phoebe Philo's brand, because Phoebe Philo took such a long sabbatical away from fashion. So many people adopted her aesthetic and kind of became known for that. Like the Row, Bottega at one point, although Bottega has kind of gone a slightly different direction now. Peter Doe, Rock, even Aurelie in some regard. So because that market segment is so divided, she hasn't been able to come back and collect her market share. Whereas someone like Eddie Saman is a bit different. Anytime he comes back, he's able to, you know, galvanize his troops and have his market share back. So it's a bit different. I think Eddie Saman has a stronger core base than Phoebe Philo, because they actually buy. I think Phoebe Philo, more people like the idea of what she represents and her aesthetic, but a lot of people don't buy Phoebe Philo's clothes anymore because her stuff is divided between the Row customers and like so many other different kinds of customers. He definitely did Culture Vulture shit, but he also collabed with Ye, worked with Martine, was contemporaries with Virgil, so he deserves credit for normalizing streetwear. Yeah, in a way. At the price point she is selling, was it supposed to regain her market share? Fair enough. Jeez. Anyway, guys, I'll put the exhibition stuff on the screen so you guys can see it. 1 second. Give me 1 sec. Okay, yeah, so this stuff is from the exhibition. So these are just some of the like accessories and stuff. This was interesting. This was his rejection letter from Balenciaga, which was kind of interesting. This is his rejection to his internship at Balenciaga, which is crazy because he ended up being the creative director and one of the, well, if not, he is the most commercially successful creative director at Balenciaga as it stands. So that's crazy. Here you have like the descriptions of a lot of the coats and stuff. This, of course, was the shopping bag in leather. You guys know all about that. The shoe with the spikes. His personal Rodeo bag. That was the bag that had all the charms and stuff. These descriptions are not necessarily in order. I need to like arrange them properly because I haven't had time to do that. But soon the descriptions will make sense. The stuff from the Brexit collection stuff, which was really cool. Leather tags and wallet tags and all that sort of stuff. The couture collection stuff. Oh yeah, that was the tape bracelet, the adhesive tape bracelet. Yeah, he called it a bangle. The gaffer bangle in matte transparent resin. What did he say? This is another product based on the idea of the ready-made. It's a resin bangle that looks like a roll of transparent tape. Obviously, tape is something very often used in my creative process and working on maquets and fixing things together and working on new shapes. So cheers to that. This, of course, everyone remembers this look from the couture collection and the hats too. Very recognizable. That was more the incognito stuff, the pleated skirt and black latex. But because when I go to exhibitions, I don't go to exhibitions the way that other people go to exhibitions. Like when I was at the exhibition, people just go through, and I saw a lot of like Balenciaga fanboys there because they were wearing Balenciaga head to toe, like Demna stands, and they would just like go through the exhibition and just like take pictures of stuff they like and then just leave. And I literally took a picture of every look, every detail, every description, because I just added it to my archive, my personal archive. So I have descriptions for like all these pieces, basically. I'm surprised that people would go to this exhibition and just speed run through it. It's quite crazy. Where was the exhibition? It was in Paris. It was in Paris. It was during Paris Fashion Week. The coats once again with the raw edges. This was interesting. This was the the lunchbox that he made. These boots are really famous too. Everyone remembers those. Hand painted trompe l'oeil jeans in cotton. That's something a technique he used a lot, to be fair, at Balenciaga. But yeah, like when you go through all this stuff, you start to appreciate like the different techniques that he was using. So when we talk about innovation, once again, because I know someone mentioned that earlier, I think that his Balenciaga is definitely innovative. Like the techniques that he was using to make a lot of this stuff is actually quite insane. It's just the way he used it sometimes was a bit crazy. um, this was from the more recent show. I remember that show. Yeah, the bathrobe. This bathrobe had a crazy technique. Yeah, it's a bathrobe coat in micro knifed leather. This outerwear bathrobe is from my first couture collection. To create the texture of a bathrobe, we use leather that is micro-knifed, cut into very, very fine fibers with a blade. Then the fibers are hand-treated to create that bathrobe-like texture. So basically what you are seeing in front of you is a padded leather coat. And yeah, obviously like I said, I took detailed shots of everything. So you can see it like close up there. Got all the different ideas. The towel skirt, which is basically a meme, that's there too. The kind of market bags that Balenciaga made as bags, sock sneakers, the World Food Program stuff. I remember that. The IKEA bag, obviously the speed trainer, ultra famous. People asking me to talk about the Margiela show. I might do a stream tomorrow. If you guys really want the stream, if you guys want me to stream about Margiela tomorrow, then comment 5 in the chat. If there are like 25s, then I'll do a stream tomorrow. If not, I won't. Yeah, this was the whole luxury thing. I remember this hoodie. This was when Demna was asking the questions like he normally does, in the sense of, you know, what can luxury actually be? Luxury can be a hoodie. So he used couture techniques to make that hoodie, and then with the shearling too. I remember reviewing that. Someone said 4+1. Oh my god, that's a lot of 5s. Okay, I'm gonna have to do a Margiela stream tomorrow. Okay, we'll do one tomorrow. No worries, no worries. It approximately looks like enough 5s. Approximately. Oh yeah, this was the piece that I absolutely hated from the couture collection. The lingerie dress. I hated that piece. Oh yeah, this was one of the pieces that I thought had a crazy technique. This was the dress that is made in a laminated fabric that mimics the floral print of tablecloths that he grew up seeing in his grandma's kitchen in Georgia. So once again, talking about the latest couture show that we just looked at, it's the exact same idea. So when I say like, oh, all these ideas, I've seen them before, this is what I mean. Like, he's been using this idea since he was at Vetements. Not the same technique though. The laminated fabric is insane. He wasn't doing that at Vetements, but the whole idea of, you know, this is a tablecloth that reminds me of what I used to see in my grandma's kitchen in Georgia. At this point, his grandma must have had every color and every print, because he has said that with so many different prints and patterns. And then the Panther shoes, that was a big one. The 7-layer parka, everyone remembers that. That was quite famous. The fake layering coat. Let me see what he says about this, because I actually can't remember, but that's why I took pictures of everything. He said, this garment started with a simple fitted first layer garment, and from there, I wanted to progressively build up the layers as far as I possibly could until it was no longer possible to move in it. We finally ended up by creating the illusion of wearing 7 or 8 different pieces of outerwear with only fronts and collars engineered together into a single garment. In my last ready-to-wear collection, while revisiting these archival pieces, I realized that what we thought was the limit of where volume could go in 2018 wasn't quite there yet. By adding this final layer of a widely disproportionate puffer, I was finally able to find the point where no more layering was possible. Thanks God. So yeah, that's what he said. He's trying to find out how many layers he could possibly add before it would literally just like rip. The belt with the bottle caps was also really big. These sneakers were quite big too. Yeah, the zip necklace is like, that was really big. T-shirt dress, I hated that stuff. This is the gimmicky stuff that I really didn't like. The like t-shirt dress, the hoodie dress. Yeah, hoodie maxi dress, not the biggest fan. Let me see what someone is saying. Someone said, as an Eastern European myself, I agree that our grandparents have like 50 different colored prints as rugs, bed sheets, basically everything. No wonder, because I'm like, Demna has a reference for every single type of floral print. He's like, yeah, this just reminds me of what my grandma used to have in Georgia. This is like the shirt dress, trouser chain, all this sort of stuff. This is some of the Gucciaga collab, the hack. This was that was from a recent collection too, the kind of all one piece, but it's supposed to look like you're wearing lingerie. Yeah, he calls it the Trompe l'oeil lingerie panta leggings. And then there was a section, yeah, this section was all the like gowns and couture dresses. So you could see like a lot of the intricate details in a lot of these dresses. And then yeah, this was like the couture. And then of course he had to add the hoodie dress, of course. And then that's a section. This is not a Gucci bag. The Balenciaga. Oh yeah, this was they made you wear this Balenciaga by Demna sticker. And it was so annoying because I didn't have anything to put it on. So I just had to put it on my cuff. But I thought that was interesting. Like, why are they forcing us to wear these stickers? Forcing us to be branded by Demna. Yeah, some more of the gowns and stuff. The intricate pieces, the intricate embroidery. Obviously, we remember this. This is also huge because this was around the time when Balenciaga was doing the virtual reality stuff, and they had that website and all that sort of stuff. That was during COVID that they had all that sort of stuff. The lace dress. So yeah, this was the gown section that was really cool. A lot of the gowns from, if you guys remember that bro ran out of lotion. If you guys remember the Brexit collection, there's a lot of the gowns from that collection were here. The really big gowns. And the details on some of those gowns, it's not really coming through in the pictures. I tried to take some close-ups, but you can't still really see it. They're actually quite insane. Did I play the Balenciaga video game? Yeah, I did. Upcycled wedding dress made of vintage wedding dresses. And then this was the last look I remember because this was the audio had something. It was saying that Demna, they had to end with like Demna's personal uniform. So yeah, this is like, let me rotate it 1 second. Yeah, zip up hoodie, baggy sweatpants. Oh yes, and this is me because ending up with a wedding dress felt way too old school by Demna standards. So yeah, that's how he ended it. But yeah, it was a really cool exhibition, is my point. Like it was actually really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Someone say worst dressed designer. I would not say Demna as that. I think Demna as a designer dresses better than a lot of designers actually. Because most designers just wear Levi's, Converses, and a t-shirt. At least he a lot of times wore like the clothing that he designed. So I guess we can always appreciate that. And then this, of course, is the lookbook from the latest couture collection, which, of course, the idea behind this was this idea of having pictures around parts of Paris that have inspired him. And there's also like a tribute to the fact that Paris is where he started his fashion career. So on the Instagram page, they have every look in order in all these different settings around Paris. Some of the looks were actually situated where, yeah, this is where the exhibition happened. So some of them are like right in front of the exhibition space. So yeah, you can walk through, see all the different looks in these like oddly photoshopped images. Tom Ford is best dressed designer. Is he? I mean, Tom Ford is best dressed designer if you like designers that dress sharply in suits. But then some people would say that Rick Owens is the best dressed designer. Some people would say, it just depends. Yeah, people would even say Alessandro Michele. If you like that aesthetic, he's the best dressed designer. So I think it really depends. I received a bunch of videos from someone attending the Margiela. It's amazing. Yeah, we did a deep dive on the Margiela show on Discord, kind of talking through our ideas. I'm kind of indifferent about it. But I'll talk about it tomorrow since you guys want me to do a stream about it. So we'll get into that deeply tomorrow. But yeah, kind of wanted to just add my thoughts, kind of talk about the collection, Demna's last couture show, talk about the ideas, talk about kind of, you know, how he ended with Balenciaga. Did I want more of a bang, considering he's, you know, finishing at Balenciaga? Yes. Did he give that to me? Not necessarily. Did he present that? Not necessarily. However, there's a lot to appreciate through Demna's tenure, and I think it will be remembered very positively. I think that a lot of people will remember the good stuff, and I think all the filler collections and merchy stuff will be forgotten about. And when people talk about the legacy of his Balenciaga, it will be about the techniques, it will be about the cultural impact and influence that he had when he was at Balenciaga, and those big cultural moments that happened as a result of his influence at Balenciaga. Anyway, with that being said, thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Please follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to grow my audience on Twitch. I do actually multi-stream on YouTube and Twitch every time I stream. So depending on what platform you prefer, you can follow me on Twitch. Also, if you want to watch the live streams back, you can follow me on Spotify, and you can watch it back on Spotify. The link to all of that stuff is normally pinned in the comment section after the stream, so definitely check that out. And on that note, guys, I'll see you in the next stream. Thank you very much